Tonight, some informal home lab testing of the Samsung SM951 under VMware's ESXi 6.5 that came out all of 48 hours ago or so. So, if we have a look at the host here, ouch, it had logged off. I've seen that error before. All right. That was a little rough edge you just saw there. All right, we get back to login screen. So, this host client, this is a HTML5 interface. Maybe you haven't seen it before, but here it is. So this is a Xeon D1541. It has some warnings. All right. 8 cores, 120 gig of RAM. The important parts here are PCIe 3 by 4 lanes and the M.2 interface. Why am I telling you all this? Because this is an M.2 card. And we want it to run at full speeds. So to get an idea of benchmarks of what it should look like, ATTO shows like this under Windows. So around 300,000 at the 4K, which is pretty important for performance. Now, heading on over to VMware, here we've got the console. On the left, a 950 Pro, on the right, an 850 Evo SATA device. Obviously, we're faster on the left, and under VMware, we are taking a performance hit. Instead of 300,000, we're getting 186,000. However, it's still incredibly fast compared to a SATA drive, which is on the right, which in these higher volumes or cloning operations of a large VM and all that. That's where NVMe on the left really shines. So we're about to try another NVMe device that's laying down the motherboard. So this one's standing up in a PCI slot. The other one's laying down the motherboard, and that's the SM951 that's under test, the third test that I want to add to this tonight. So how about I start with heading back here. Sorry, wrong window. Okay, so we've got this client going. We're looking at the server, but what we really want to look at is quick look at the hardware, and there you can see all the chips or the devices that can be passed through. That's how Xeon D looks from an ESXi perspective. Now, what if we just want to look at storage? And there's my data stores. Looks like I left a Micron actually attached tonight when I was moving things around. But notice we don't see the 951 yet. How about adapters? All right, this is a little strange. It has to do with the driver. There's actually an article about this. Normally, you would see all 6 SATA ports in there. You're only seeing one with the default window, ESXi 6.5 driver. How about devices? Okay, now we're talking. This top one is the SM951. 128 gig in size, so MZVPV. MZVPV. 128 gig in size. So it's this one, which is NVMe, not HCI device. So this is the one that's under test, and this gives you an idea of the kinds of speed I should see. Sorry, this video is jumping around quite a bit. Hang in there. We'll get this going shortly. Let me reduce clutter a bit with windows we don't need. Head back to this one, and let me rip off that tab. I thought I had a logged in session. That's a little weird. Let's try that again. Okay. Well, we're having the host client bug out on us a bit. Maybe I've just revealed a rough edge on ESXi 6.5. Moving right along and clearing out those warnings again. All right, storage. Where were we? Devices. All right, what are your options when you see a device like this? Well, if you click on it and go to Actions, interesting. NVMe Samsung 128 gig. That is the right device. It has a VMFS on it, apparently. Why is it interesting? Well, because under Data Store, it doesn't even show. So that's a little odd. All right. just for grins here, let's head over to the full functionality vSphere web client UI rather than HTML5. Actually, we can do both. That one and this one. All right, so we get this thing logged in. I just want to see if there's any other options as far as data stores. Using the full functioned Adobe Flash-based vSphere web client. Let's see. Oh, look at that. The HTML5 one came out way quicker. Surprise, surprise. And they're both hitting the same VCSA appliance, by the way. So that ended up being a nice demo of what a difference. Keep in mind, too, this is on an NVMe Samsung 950, this VCSA appliance, so you would expect it to run really fast. All right, where am I? I'm going under storage. Actually, let's go to hosts view. All right. Same data store showing. And there's no, special refresh or anything different here. And then finally, the most modern UI of all, this is the way they're headed for vSphere management, is this lovely UI. vSphere client in the top left corner. So there's our data stores. All right. What if we right click on the host and say new data store? Will it find that Samsung 950? The answer is no. So we still got to nuke what's on there. And you know what? The view we had before is going to do fine. So here we are, the ESXi host client. This is our browser pointed straight to the ESXi server. Go to devices. Go to the device we want to do something with. And head over to actions, making darn sure we're on the right device. Clear partition table. So there's something wrong with its VMFS that's not being seen. I don't really care. It was just a test lab drive anyway. I'm a little perplexed why we couldn't see what was on there, but that's okay. All right, now I can do new data store and type in what it is. Full disk, stick with VMFS 6, the new one, which is really about automatic space reclamation. And it should format really quickly. All right, that ended up being a little bit convoluted, showing you adding storage. But it is handy that maybe you have NTFS in there and you want to repurpose it. It's nice that you now have the tools to very easily remove partitions on there and bring them in. Really handy with vSAN too, but that's where things get even trickier. You tend to have to use command line. So got ourselves a new data store. That's good. Head on over to data stores. Okay. What happened to the Micron? Weird. A lot of windows going here, but let's see if I can get the right one. Yeah, what happened to the Micron? It's not there. Huh. All right. I'm just going to keep rolling. I'm not really wasn't planning on troubleshooting. I'm just planning on doing some testing. So we've got a data store, kind of done with that stuff. Now we can go and head on over to the lovely UI to do some cloning. Why am I cloning? This UI is vSphere client. This will let me point to a VM and clone it. So let's copy from NVMe, which would be speedy, and clone to another virtual machine. Okay, not a great name, but it'll do. Scroll down till we find the SM951. It's a thin provision VM. And you know what? I don't even care about duplicate IPs or whatever. It should be fine. Actually, it won't. It'll work just fine. All right, so that's it. So we've now got a nice high-speed cloning going on, or low speed. So part of the reason I'm testing SM951 is there was someone making a comment that they had some trouble with air. So I want to make sure it's healthy and that the speeds seem to act normal, and run this same VM that you saw me start this video with, these 2 copies of an identical VM. Just run the same thing over on the 3rd drive and see what kind of results we get. What we should get is something similar to the Samsung 950, a little slower and a whole lot faster than the SATA 3 device here. So I don't want to believe it until I see it. And I want to establish a baseline for people that might own an NVMe SM951. So it's going to take a little while to get that clone done. Wow. Yeah, 30 was fast. All right. So my gut feeling is already telling me, given how quickly it received that clone, we are probably doing just fine as far as speeds. That was impressive. And to make this video a little clearer, whoops. Okay, that's better. All right. Bringing up the UI for it. So we now have an SM951 VM. We need a console for it, and I'm launching the external one. So now we can have all of them running happily next to each other. Awesome. All right, now there's a couple of things to point out. I didn't touch any of these settings. Most people are not going to touch any of those, and it's actually an older ATTO disk bench without some more rows at the bottom. I did that on purpose just, well, for multiple reasons, to be able to compare to my own articles from a couple of years ago, for instance. So we're good now, ready to run. After this is done, I'll go ahead and show you the results, because it's kind of boring to watch it run. But I will kick it off in front of you here, so just a second. All right. And here we go. Let her rip, starting now. So it's kicked off. And for folks wondering about thermal throttling, yeah, just for good measure during this test, just to make it less likely it'll hit, because I have a few drives jammed in this machine, I'll point out that I did go with fan mode is on full. Makes it a little noisier, but I don't want to confound or confuse or make the results weird by having thermal throttling going, where what you would see is a speed drop near the end of these last runs. After 30, 40 seconds of hammering away at the SSD, you can get a speed drop. Okay, we can already see the results are looking quite good. Very similar to a Samsung 960 Pro at the left. So, okay, pausing now and zooming ahead. Just, here we go. Okay, it's finishing up here. It looks like I've got some much lower write speeds. Let's take a look at the documentation to see what would be normal. And again, we're under VMware here. Under Windows, you'd get something closer to the full stated specs on the manufacturer's website. And in my experience, Samsung tends to tell the truth on those numbers, by the way. All right. This is the one we want. Here you go. 650. So we're doing all right. I'll show you that again. 2000 for read, 650 for write. And we should probably shuffle these around a little bit to make a more logical left to right sequence here. $2,000 for writes. Yeah. Right here, a whole bunch of 200,000. And about 600 something. Yeah, no, we're doing fine. We're meeting the spec. So it's all good. So I think I'm done here. I'm done with trying to see if I have any problems with ESXi 6.5 running on my factory default system with just a couple of bias tweaks. So to finish out and make this video even more thorough, because boy, it really wasn't long enough, right? Sorry. I just want to say these are my specs. This is the system we're testing under. All right. And specifically, we're on a bundle 1. This particular system, 120 gig of RAM, all right? Now, what are the settings that I've used in my BIOS? Well, that's easy. Whoops. If I click the right thing. BIOS optimized, benchmark optimized. I didn't bother with that. That'll give me another 5%. But it makes the fan louder, makes the machine run more, makes it use more electricity. I went with recommended settings. So that's how my BIOS is set up. Okay, and what version of BIOS am I using? Well, that's simple. 1.1c came out a little while ago, mid-October, and IPMI 3.46. So if you were watching this video and wanted to repeat my results, I've now told you everything you would need to know in a visual form to obtain exactly the same results I did. If you want to add a second, like you saw, how did I jam 2 M.2s when there's only one slot in the motherboard? Well, it's this easy. $20 adapter, stuck that in, and ran from there. All right, and 960 Pro is coming up next. Hopefully it'll be here soon. I've been waiting for it for a while. So there are actually multiple PCI adapters, by the way. So I'll just mention that as well. The one you saw is actually a slightly different variant, also about $20. But I have one that also handles 22/110 NVMe cards, like a Micron I was also trying. So there you have it, ready to close down this video and summarize by saying it seems I'm good to go. So the people who have been leaving comments on my website, there were some questions about SATA 3 speeds. They seem to be okay with the default driver. There was also some question about SM951. Now, that doesn't mean those aren't problems or they won't bite me at some point, but at this moment in time, my fresh install of ESXi 6.5 on a USB key, not an upgrade install, worked out just fine. Everything seems healthy. So hopefully you found this video helpful. I should also test a 6.0 update to 6.5 upgrade and see how that does, and see if that surfaces something weird on the Supermicro Super Server Supermicro Super Server 5028D-TN4T, or other ZNDs. So basically I could take these same VMs and just rebuild the USB key that has the hypervisor with 6.0 update 2, update it to 6.5, and run these same tests and see if my video or just screenshots looks exactly like this. If it does, I'll know I'm all set there as well. Thanks for watching, and thanks for visiting tinkertry.com.